Welcome, grade 11 Mindsetters. I know that you're all watching the grade 10 session and you are finally excited that it's your turn. In last week's lesson, we looked at joints.
Indy hasn't been at school for a long time, guys. Forgive her.
I know, it's been a while.
Excited.
It's been a while.
We're going to study. We're going to sit
I know, I
and
get
listen
very excited.
because it's another way of learning and hopefully you get your distinctions.
Well, but you know what? I really enjoy life science.
Sorry,
I
I've
do.
interrupted you.
I do, because life science is about the learning about you. It's learning about how the way you work, the way things work in the world. So I think it's an awesome subject.
And that brings us to what we're doing today.
Yeah, and I'm not even sucking up, guys. So this week we'll be exploring the musculo-skeletal system.
So we're looking at the muscles that work the skeleton.
Yeah, guys. So I'm excited, and also next week we'll be looking at the human circulatory system. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to hand it over to the master herself, Kathy. Okay. So see you now.
See you in a minute.
Hi guys, and welcome back. Guys, grade 11s, I just want to let you know that you can chat to me on Facebook. My name is Indiana, and it is www.facebook.com/learnextra. Like the page, that way you get all of our updates and news feeds and everything that's going on. You can also chat to me on Twitter, and that's @learnextra. If there's anything that Kathy is chatting about that you're not understanding, please post on the page, and I will be asking Kathy in the last 15 to 10 minutes of the show. Okay guys, without further ado, let's get straight to the lesson. Take it away, Kathy.
Hi, grade 11s. All right, guys, we want you to get good marks. Because if you get good marks in grade 11, it gives you the grounding for grade 12. And then you just sail through it all. All right? And that goes for all your subjects. So we are now going through the musculo, which means you're talking about the muscles, skeletal. They're the muscles that make the skeleton work, okay, system. Now remember, we have cells, or we have organelles. Organelles, Golgi apparatus, the nucleus, the cytoplasm, the mitochondria, all those things, organelles. Organelles make cells. Cells make tissue. Tissue makes organs. All right, like kidneys, heart, okay? Organs together make a system, and the systems together make us the organism. All right, and you learned that in grade 10. I'm reminding you in grade 11. Okay, we are now looking at the muscles, and the muscles that make the skeleton move are voluntary muscles. Okay? Why voluntary? Because we work them by will. It is our will to make our muscles work. So all your musculoskeletal muscles are voluntary muscles, and they are made of striated muscle cells. Now I know a lot of you that are watching us have English as a second or a third language, and you're looking at this thinking, whoa, I have no idea what you're talking about. When you sit with a term that you don't understand, or that is a problem, break the word up. So musculo means muscle. Skeletal, we know, is the skeleton, and we know what a system is. It's a whole bunch of organs put together that work nicely together. Okay? Our muscles in our skeleton work voluntarily. If I want to take this pen and I want to put it into this hand, I know I move this across. I am voluntarily moving my muscles. Unlike your smooth muscle, which makes up your organs, they work without you even thinking about it. You do not control it with your will. All right? Your cardiac muscles in your heart, you can't control with your will either. But moving your legs, doing all those things, doing this, smiling, you are voluntarily moving your muscles. Looking grouchy, angry, whatever, you are thinking about it. So you're moving it consciously. And all your muscles move antagonistically, but we're going to get to that. What I want to do though, is I want to just check that you remember the joints, because the joints are very, very, very important. We had our fibrous joints. There is no movement. Why? Because, and we want a different color here. Why? Because it's like, for example, the sutures of the skull. Those are the joints that hold their skull bones together. I mean, can you imagine if this is moving around? Oh my gosh, what will happen to the brain? And nothing can happen to the brain, because the brain is what makes your body work. Okay, then, so fibrous joints, there is no movement. And you must know this, please. Then we have our cartilaginous joints. Those are the ones that are made of cartilage, like the discs between the vertebra of the spine, and also the cartilage between the pubic bones. The bones here, the pubic symphysis, that bone, where the two bones meet. All right, because it's got to be able to move, it's got to have some movability. And here we've got slight restricted movement. Otherwise, you will not be able to bend over. One of you last week, and Indy told me this after we'd sort of finished off and, you know, it was over, was why when we you know, when somebody clicks your back or you click your knuckles, what that noise is. You must remember, and that takes us to our synovial joints. So let's just get through this and I'll show you what the synovial joint looks like, and I'll explain exactly to you where that click comes from. Okay, we have our synovial joints, and we've got the ball and socket joint, all right? And that ball and socket joint, remember, is at our hips, all right, and at our shoulders. Gliding joint, it's a flat bone with another surface, and that's in your wrist and your ankles. And then we looked at the hinge joint. Now remember, your hinge joint is like the door. It's like the hinge of a door. It can only go in one direction, all right? Gliding was this way. So that's gliding. And then hinge and your knee, all right? And then your pivot joint, which is the one I love. Pivot means it pivots around, all right? And we are able to do that, so it's pivoting around a central point. Okay, pivot, it pivots around. So those were our four: ball and socket, gliding, hinge, and pivot. Learn them. Sit down, write this table here out, stick it on the fridge, and you don't even think of opening that fridge until you've read through the joints. And I promise you now, 2 days, especially if you like food, all right? But even if you're getting cold water out of the fridge or milk out of the fridge for a cup of tea or whatever, if you do it for 2 to 3 days, do it for a week if you have to. Promise you now you'll know all your joints, and you will get a question on the joints in an exam. In fact, it's quite probable that they give you a long question or an essay on joints. It's a nice one. Alrighty, now, here we've got the ball and socket joint. It tells you here it's in the hip, all right? And what have we got? The biggest issue here is that we've got the head of the femur. Now, how do we remember that this is the femur? Because girls in bikinis have beautifully long legs. Why? Because they have long femurs, and femurs are feminine. Right, so femur, and we've got the ball and the socket in the hip, and the ball fits into there. All right, what are we going to have? We're going to have the cartilage, or the articular cartilage around, and there's the hole in the bone, in the hip bone, and what holds it together is ligaments. People, you've got to remember, ligaments hold bone to bone so that our bones don't dangle like a puppet, all right? Ligaments hold bone to bone, and tendons attach bones to muscle or muscle to bone, all right? So the way a tendon works, okay, is part of it encapsulates the bone, and then it goes and it covers the whole muscle. So that's what you've got. It's almost continuous from the bone onto the muscle. So that's why your tendons are strong. And if your tendons don't work, or you've torn a tendon, A, it's very painful, B, it restricts movement incredibly, especially if it's your Achilles tendon, for example, or the tendons behind your knees here. You will not be able to move because the muscles will not be able to pull the bone up. And remember, your bones, it's like our skeleton that we had here. Okay? What was our skeleton's name? I've actually forgotten.
Dudu.
Dudu. We had
Dudu.
We had Dudu here. Now, I mean, you take that skeleton, you lift its arm, it just flops down. But for us, we've got muscles, and those muscles lift. Muscles are attached to these bones, to that skeleton. It's attached by means of tendons. All right, the ligaments hold the bones to the bones. And that's what very often gets hurt when girls, you're walking around in those very, very high shoes, those platform shoes. And you see, you can do that because when you're short, you can wear those things that are this high. Except that when you fall, you go bloops, and you end up tearing your ligaments, the structures that hold the bone to the bone. All right? Then here's an example of a hinge joint. That would be the knee joint. Now, here's your femur. There's the knee. And here you have your tibia in line with the big toe, and the fibula, which is at the back. And what have we got here? We've got the cartilage at the bottom here, and this is the proximal end. And the bones sit and they fit onto each other, but you've got this cartilage, and you're going to have a whole bunch of fluid in between there. Now, if I take this, it's an example of a synovial joint. This is what we have. Okay? Let's move this way a little bit, and I'm going to write in white so you can see it nice and clearly. First of all, what is this? It is the head or the epiphysis of the femur. All right, so it's the femur. And what is that going to be? It's going to be the spongy bone. All right, so it's the femur and it's the spongy bone. Now, remember what was next to that spongy bone, which is where our red bone marrow is. Here we have our compact bone. And that compact bone is what surrounds the shaft, and as it goes up the shaft, that compact bone is nice and thick because it makes sure that nothing's going to happen to make the bone strong. All right? Here, this line should actually go all the way to here. You're not going to see that, so let's use pink again. It goes to here, so it's almost like it's a compact bone. Here we have the periosteum. All right, now this label line here, and I'm just going to put a little line to the side. Let's get our white back. Oh no, it's not going to work, so let's do pink again. This here is your articulating cartilage, so I'm going to do it here. It's the articulating cartilage. Now, articulating means that it's moving. All right, so it's the cartilage that is around the edge on which the bones are going to rub. Articulating. So articulating cartilage all the way around here. That's this arrow line here. I'm just going to do so that you know that it's the arrow line going there. So you know I haven't left anything out. Okay. What we've got here is this structure which forms a capsule. All right. This capsule closes the synovial joint. Now remember, your synovial joints have liquid in them. They have something called synovial oil. And this line just goes to all the way there. Let's get a white. Synovial fluid. Well, that's why it's called, people, a synovial joint. So here is your synovial fluid, all right, there. And then we've got this membrane, and this membrane is called the synovial membrane. Now really, think about the words that you don't know here. I mean, synovial, it's a synovial joint. So the synovial joint has a capsule around it. It's got the synovial fluid here, and it's got the synovial membrane so that that fluid is closed in, inside that capsule. And then clearly in between, we need another color. In between here, you are going to have something that holds bone to bone. And if it holds bone to bone, it is a tendon or a ligament. Come think, tendon or a ligament. It is a
Must I shout out the answer? You're making me nervous. You've got that teacher voice, Kathy. I'm like, is it a tendon or a ligament?
Well, you tell me without looking. What is it?
Oh, no, but I saw it's a ligament.
Ah, there we go.
At least I'm honest, right?
So ligaments hold bone to bone. Tendons attach muscle to bone. And it's because of those tendons that we are able to move our muscles and move our skeleton. All right, so that's your synovial joint. People, learn this. If I was your teacher, this would be 6 marks in any test or an exam, because I'd ask you to name the 4 different types of synovial joints, explain what they are, where they are found, draw and label, or I'd give this to you and say label it. And from here, I would go to my questions. All right, so please make sure that you know your synovial joint. Now, if we look at human locomotion means to be able to move. And it doesn't necessarily have to be human, it is any animal. It's anything that is not a plant. All right, so if you don't have cell walls in your cells, you are an animal. And any animal cell has to move. Now with us, especially the vertebrates sitting on land, what do? We are able to move. We must move. And that's why we call it, now we're speaking about humans specifically, human locomotion. Locomotion to move from point A to move to point B. Why do we need to do that? Well, apart from the fact that we work and all that, but I mean, if we were out in the middle of nowhere, we would have to find food, we would have to find shade, we'd have to find shelter and water and space and all that kind of thing. We need to move. Bones help us to move, all right? So we've got the bones. That gives us our skeleton. We have the joints. If we didn't have the joints, then the bones would all be dislocated. We must have the bones joined to each other so that it moves as a coordinated whole. Now, you know, some people have got good coordination, others have got lousy coordination. And we normally say people with really good ball skills, okay, have good coordination. But then think of an athlete. A person who's a supreme athlete who can jump high and jump far and do triple jump, that takes a lot of coordination. All right, so our joints need to be movable and immovable. So we've got, remember the fibrous joints, I'm putting an F, okay, and they were immovable. We had our cartilaginous joints with a little bit of movement, and then we have our synovial joints. And please make sure that you learn the diagram. Now, ligaments, what do ligaments do? Okay, ligaments hold bone to bone. Okay, tendons hold or attach muscle to bone. All right, so tendons, think of your Achilles tendon. Come on, girls, especially the girls with their high shoes, all right? And if you want your Achilles tendon has to work really nicely to make your calves look sexy, Achilles tendon. So a tendon holds muscle to bone, and ligaments hold bone to bone. All right, we've got like 30 seconds left, and now we're going to go on to antagonistic. And just before we take our ad break, I want to explain to you antagonistic. What is it to be antagonistic? It means to be on opposite sides. All right, you get two fighters in a ring, they're antagonistic. They want to fight each other. They are opposite. And it's because of the antagonistic movement, the opposite movement of muscles, that we are able to move our skeletons. So over to Indy.
Okay, guys, we're going to take a little break, get those questions in on our page. I know that Rafense said, please, can you post the picture of the synovial joint? Guys, I'm going to do exactly that. Every single little thing that Kathy is working on her screen, I'm going to put them onto our Facebook page. And please, let me know, is this working? Are you guys downloading the pictures and are they helping you? We're going to take a quick break, and as soon as we'll get back, we'll get straight to it. See you then. Hi guys, and welcome back. I promised it was going to be a quick break here. I told you. Guys, get those questions in. If there's anything you're not understanding, we're on facebook.com/learnextra. Our Twitter handle is @learnextra, so get chatting to us. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to go straight to Kathy. Kathy, take it away.
Okay, boys and girls, welcome back, and here we go. So antagonistic, which is where I left off, said you've got two fighters in a ring, they're antagonistic, they want to go at each other. So you've got two chickens, they're going to go at each other. Antagonistic, you don't feel very good, or you feel opposite to the other person. All right, so our muscles work. Please look at the word. And so we're going to go, let me just get a color here. Let's go yellow. We go stick. All right, make sure you can spell it. Antagonistic. And what does it mean? It means opposite. All right, now look at my finger. If I do put my finger down and I curl it down, okay, what's happening? These muscles have to stretch or flex. And these muscles, extend. And these muscles flex. They curl up. They contract. Now, think about guys when they say flex your muscles. Okay, now I don't actually have a hell of a lot of muscle to flex here, but you know when guys go or you know when they're doing like bodybuilding competitions, they flex their muscle. That means they contract it. So the flexor will be the muscle that's contracting. Okay? Let's have a look. Here we've got our biceps, which is this one, and the triceps, which is at the back. Okay? When I want to bring my hand to my face, all right, whatever, to my face, I'm bringing it here. This muscle here, this biceps, has to contract. But if the biceps is contracting and the triceps is not relaxing or extending, there's no way you're going to get your hand back here. So what we have to do is this muscle, the biceps, has to contract or flex, so it becomes the flexor. And your extensor, or the muscle that extends and stretches, is the back muscle, so the triceps. But now, if I want to take my hand down, what's going to happen? The biceps has to relax, so it relaxes, and the triceps is what's pulling my arm straight. So your muscles always work opposite. And what I'd like you all to do, I know you're sitting and you're busy typing, I need for you to multitask. I want you to stand up, and I want you to lean on something, take your leg, whichever leg you feel more stable on, and I want you to take your leg at right angles, all right? Now, straighten your leg, all right? And I'm battling here because my gym instructor killed me this morning, Michelle, but we won't go there. All right, so you straighten. What am I doing? My hamstrings, at least my quads, are pulling, they're contracting to lift the foot up, all right? And if I now want to bend, these muscles here have to extend, they have to relax. And what's happening here? The hamstrings are saying, come, pull back. So quads, hamstrings, quads, hamstrings. People, if you're sitting in an exam and you've got to explain antagonistic movement, take your finger, if you're right-handed, take your left finger and sit there and go, okay, so these are flexing, these are extending. Why? It's antagonistic movement. Now, can you imagine if both muscles extended, the finger goes nowhere. If both muscles contract, that finger's going to go nowhere. One has to give and the other one has to contract. And then this one contracts, this one has to release. It's like the perfect relationship if you have it so. The one contracts, the other one relaxes, and then you swap. So biceps, the front, triceps is the back, moving the hand up. This muscle here is going to be contracting, or we say it is the flexor. It flexes. The muscle at the back, or the triceps, okay, this muscle is going to be relaxing. And when it relaxes, it is going to extend. So it becomes the extensor. It extends. And how do we exercise? By contracting and relaxing, and contracting and relaxing. And that is what's going to make us work our muscle. Now, when muscles contract, this is another story. And this you have to know. Okay, what John's done here is he's given more antagonistic. We've got our biceps and our triceps. So flexor, or flexation, you're pulling up, and extension, you are relaxing. It's the opposite direction of what I've just explained to you. Okay, how does it all work? We look at our little muscle. This is one muscle. All right, so let's say, for example, this is the biceps. I'm sorry, I don't have a big one, and I'm looking at...
I can't help either, Kathy. The germ's
I'm
that
looking
way.
at Indiana,
The germ's that way.
Yeah, we're soft, you see. So, but you'll have to just bear with us. Okay, so what have we got? We've got this muscle here. Now, if I take this muscle out, it's got this sort of shape. All right? So, and what is it made of? It's made of striated muscle. All right? And why do we call it striated? Because it's got striations. Now, the best way to think of striations is, you know the Scottish, and the Scottish people have got those kilts, all right? And the kilts are all made of tartan material, and they are striated. So striated means different lines running across and running this way and that way. That's striated. So we've got striations, which are these different little layers that we have within a muscle fiber, and that's called your muscle fiber here. And the muscle fiber is made up of lots of myofibrils. So we've got the muscle, and the muscle is made up of muscle. All right, we've got the muscle. The muscle's made up of muscle fibers. So this whole thing here would be a muscle fiber. Okay, let's just do this. That is my muscle fiber. Muscle. This is English. English is difficult, hey? It's got more exceptions than the rules, blah, blah, blah. But remember, if you have to say muscle, then you say muscle. I'd rather you mispronounce the words. And I mean, if you guys have been following what I did last year with the grade 12s as well, and they will tell you the last year's grade 12s, I kept saying, if you know how, make sure you know how to spell the word. If you mispronounce it, who cares? Because you're not doing an oral exam at the end of the year, you're doing a written exam. Make sure you can spell it so you don't look like an idiot. Okay, so here we go. Your muscle, okay, and it's a what? It's a muscle fiber. It's actually a fibre. So you've got your muscle fiber, and the muscle fiber, that whole little structure is made up of myofibrils. Now people, look at this. The word M or the prefix MYO actually is Latin for muscle. All right, so if we say it is a myofibril, we're actually saying it is a little bitty piece of a muscle fiber. It's the baby of the muscle fiber. So your myofibrils make up a muscle fiber, and a whole bunch of muscle fibers are going to make up the big muscle. All right, now, how does it all work? You see these little colored parts here? There's dark and there's light, and there are little bridges here. Okay, those lines are those lines over there. Now you don't need to know absolute amazing detail. You're not studying medicine, by the way. You are doing grade 11 life sciences. But we want you to know how it works. What causes a muscle to move? In this little myofibril, we have myosin and actin fibers. Now you must know, these are very, very little. They're tiny. And that's what makes up these different colors. So your darker ones are the myosin, the lighter ones are the actin, and they sit like this. Now if you look at my hand, that's exactly how they sit. They sit sort of in each other's gaps. And when the muscle contracts, your myosin and your actin pull together, and they almost form like little bridges. So they interlace like your hands. Now think about how strong your hands are when you interlace them. I mean, you can give someone a hand up a wall like this. So you interlace the myosin and the actin, which makes up one myofibril, one tiny little muscle fiber. Okay, or myofibrils make up the muscle fibers which make up the muscle. So it interlinks like that, and it forms a bridge. And as it interlinks like that, that's when your muscle contracts. So you'll have the muscle contracting here as they interlink across like that. Right, that causes a muscle contraction. For that to happen, this little thing needs, let's take this up a little bit. It needs calcium ions, okay, and it needs, now remember, to contract takes energy. So we need adenosine triphosphate. And I hope you grade 11s remember what ATP is. It's adenosine, which is a protein, okay, and 3 phosphates. And your energy is trapped in the bond between the phosphate and the adenosine. So when it has full energy capacity, it's adenosine triphosphate, ATP. And when you need the energy, 1 phosphate is released, and the energy in that bond is then given off, and that's what the muscle will use. And that is why, for those of you that want to lose weight, okay, this is why if you're a little weighty, or a little chubby, or you have a little excess weight, what do? We go to gym and we work out. Or you go for a long walk around the block every day. Or you sit and you do sit-ups and push-ups and press-ups and what at home. You don't have to go to a gym to train, but you can. So you train, and what are you doing? You are using ATP for your muscles every time the myosin and the actin contract and form bridges. So every time a muscle contracts, you need energy. Now, where does the energy come from? You're going to get it from the mitochondria, which are in the muscle cells, all right? The striated muscle cells. Mitochondria are now going to take glucose, and they're going to use oxygen, all right? And they are going to produce ATP and water and CO2. That's what cellular respiration is. So when we run out of glucose, the muscle cells say, whoa, hold on, not enough glucose here. Where are those fat cells? I know we've got fat cells stored here, and the muscle, the fat that's in between your muscles, that's what your muscle cells start breaking down. And that's why exercise is what makes us slim and trim. All right, it's because you need that ATP every time the myosin and the actin in the myofibril, which means the little baby muscle fiber, when that pulls together to make a bridge, right, and to cause the muscle to contract, that's what we end up with. And something else, just as an extra snippet, you know when people have an epileptic fit, they have a grand mal seizure, which is a complete seizure, their muscles are twitching. Why? They're sitting with too much energy in their brain and in their body. So with the muscles contracting, it releases that energy, and that's why they will sleep for up to 10, 12 hours after a seizure, because they've now used all that energy, and the energy now has to be remade while the little mitochondria do their thing. Okay, people, I'm not quite sure how much time I have. Okay, we've got 2 minutes, so before we go to Indian ad break, and what we've got here is a diagram showing the muscles and the joints. Now remember, our joints that we're looking at here, we're looking at a ball and socket joint. It's the femur is the head, and the hip bone, the pelvic bone, will be the socket, and the ball and socket fits in. You're going to have a ligament or a tendon holding the bone to the bone.
A ligament.
There we go, good girl. So ligament holding the bone into that ball, or holding the ball into that socket there, and that is a ball and socket joint, which is a synovial joint. All right, at the knee we have another synovial joint, and this is going to be a hinge joint. Okay, it's the hinge joint, and we've got all these muscles here that are now going to be working to lift this body and propel it forward. So we've got the calf muscles, we've got the quads, we've got the hamstrings, and we've got this one here, and your bum muscle is called the gluteus maximus, because it is the biggest muscle in your body. The gluteus maximus right there, and it's these muscles that will work together to propel your body forward. How do we bond muscles to bone? With
ligaments, tendons.
Tendons. You have a tendency,
I have a tendency.
You have a tendency. All right. So that tendency is to attach muscle to bone, and ligaments attach bone to bone. All right. So I think what we're going to do is we now have gone through the entire musculo-skeletal system. We're going to take a little break. I'm going to hand you over to Indy, and then I'm going to check whether you've been listening.
Okay, guys, we're going to go to a break. You see, I nearly got into trouble there with Kathy. Okay, guys, we've got 15 minutes left to the lesson. If there is anything that you aren't understanding, please paste it on our page. I know Danae says the reason why you guys are all so silent is because you all understand, and I'm hoping that's true. If not, get those questions on our page, and we'll see you now after the break. Hi guys, and welcome back. I told you it was going to be a very quick break, didn't I? Guys, please get your questions in now. We are going through a little question and answer session in about 8 minutes time. So if there is anything you're not understanding, www.facebook.com/learnextra, also @learnextra, and we're on Twitter. And Kathy, let's get straight to it.
Okay, what I'm going to do is go through the different injuries you can have to the skeletal system, which I think is important and I think you need to know, not just in case they ask you questions in an exam, but for you as a human being, because you are studying the skeleton now, and it seems pretty futile for you to just learn what you're going to be examined on, really, okay? And then your diseases. So the different diseases that you have in the skeletal system, there are only 4 you need to know, and you must make sure you know that. But you know what I actually forgot, and I've just remembered now, is I didn't do, here's the synovial joint. I didn't tell you why it cracks. Now, if you look, remember when you crack your joints and you go cluck, 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 or someone lifts you up and you click your back in, all right, or we say we click our backs in. This is what happens. Between in your vertebrae as well, you have some synovial fluid, and what happens is you've got this capsule around it, you've got the synovial membrane, and then you have the synovial fluid. So what you've got in here is liquid pressure, and it's got like a little fold in it, and within that fold, it creates even more pressure. So when somebody takes you and they lift you up to straighten your back, or you sit and you click your knuckles, you are working, first of all, pushing down on this capsule, you're causing pressure, and it's called cavitating. And when you cavitate, the air that's in here is released, and it's that air that goes click, and that's what makes that noise. It's the same as when you are, or similar processes to when you are really hungry. You know, when you're really hungry and you can sit, or somebody next to you, you know, when they're hungry, when you can hear their stomach go, and you think, whoa, I'm so embarrassed, sorry. It's exactly the same thing. Within your stomach, you're hungry, so you're thinking of food. So you're making more saliva. So you are swallowing the saliva, and if you spit in your hand, you'll see it's got little bubbles in it. So what happens to those little bubbles? They go into your stomach. And it's a closed muscular structure with air and some spit. And what happens is your muscles now think, whoa, there's some food in here, and it starts to mush away and work, and it pushes the air this way and that way. And think how much noise that makes. So by the little bit of air in here and the little fold, and as you put pressure from the outside onto this capsule, which is pressurized internally, you push it, the little bit of air escapes, and it goes, and that is what you hear as a click. Now, something else. If you sit and go clack, 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 clack to your knuckles, you know what you're doing? You're actually wearing away the cartilage between the two joints. And as you move that cartilage, the cartilage eventually wears away, and you end up with a problem with the synovial fluid, which results in the calcium deposits not taking place, which in turn results in inflammation, which in turn results in osteoarthritis, which means the bones just stop working, and you end up with the worst looking hands in the world. So do not do that, okay? Promise, you will not do it. And Indy said she does it, and Indy, you will not click your knuckles.
I won't, I haven't, and I don't. In case my mother's watching, Kathy, you're going to get me into trouble.
Nah,
I don't,
good.
Mom.
And you know what, when these guys are all tough and they go, clock, clock, I'm so tough. And you think, and when you hit 60, 70, you're going to have osteoarthritis, and it's not going to be funny. Talking about osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis is something where, you know, when the knuckles pull completely and the hands become all D-shaped, they lose their ability to move. They become almost like claws in really old people. It's the body itself, the immune system, almost starts to fight your own body, your own immune system, and you end up with a synovial fluid in the membrane becoming very inflamed, which causes the knuckles to swell. And when it swells, it then prevents the proper blood circulation from taking place. And as that inflammation goes down, your body starts to make tissue to almost coat and protect the joint. And as it does that, that tissue starts to calcify, and when it calcifies, it ends up making the hands change shape, and that is what we call rheumatoid arthritis. Rickets is when there's a deficiency in vitamin D in little kids, and they end up with wonderful bow legs. I mean, it actually looks so cute, but it's awful. Is their bones actually move like this? What are you doing? the legs end up doing that. So you've got the feet there, and you've got these incredibly bow legs. Why? Because it's a lack of vitamin D. Now you think, hold on, why would a lack of vitamin D cause rickets? Now just think the skeleton gets rickety, so rickets. All right, why? It's lack of vitamin. I mean, are vitamins very important? Oh yes, they are. Because what vitamins do is they help your body to work properly. All right, and by helping your body to work properly, the function of vitamin D is to help you to absorb calcium. Okay, and if you don't have calcium, guess what? Or you don't have vitamin D in your diet, you can eat a whole plate of calcium tablets and you're not going to absorb one little bit because it's all going to go straight through you. So you must have vitamin D to absorb calcium. And if you take any, and Indy, this is very important, please put it on for the girls especially, because us girls, we don't hold calcium. And that is why for every one man, 4 women end up with osteoporosis. Why? Our bodies are designed to give calcium to a baby. We battle to store calcium. We must have lots of calcium to store it. That's why our bones are light. And men, the XY chromosomes, have heavy skeletons because they store the calcium. We don't. So our bodies are designed to release it to babies. So we end up with those little osteocytes not getting calcium and not being able to deposit calcium around them, and we end up with holes. And those holes is what we call osteoporosis. The bone becomes porous and it breaks and snaps very quickly. So from the age of about 40, girls, you should start going for bone density tests, so that you can pick up, hold on, I'm battling a little bit here with calcium, and you should be taking calcium now. And from the age of 20, 21, 22, you make sure that you take a good calcium supplement every day that has vitamin D. But the bow legs, okay, the rickets, is generally in little children, it'll cause the bow legs. Right, I'm trying to think of what other...
Yes, we've got two quick questions.
Yeah?
Okay, run-of-the-mill questions. Okay, let's have a look here. Okay, Zoli said, how do you explain the growing of bones when one body builds?
Bones don't grow, the muscles grow. Okay, you cannot grow bone.
I think maybe he meant muscles.
Oh, okay. What happens is when you are bodybuilding and you're trying to build muscle, you need to take in a heck of a lot of protein, and you must take a lot of carbs, because if you don't have enough carbs, your body will break the protein down in the liver and you'll deaminate the protein into glucose. Right now, Belinda, this producer, keeps telling me 1 minute, and I get all blah, blah, blah. All right, so what happens is when you are building muscle, you have to break muscle. That's why they'll say what you do is less reps, but with a really heavy weight. And your muscles think, oh my gosh, those 10 muscle cells weren't good enough because you've broken them. So what it does to compensate is it makes 20 muscle cells. But you need 48 hours to recuperate and lots of protein. Otherwise, it doesn't have the stuff to make the proteins for muscle cells. Okay? If you want to trim down and cut, you do lots of reps, lightweight. And it's that repetitiveness that works all the fat out and gives you the painted six-pack. You see? But if you want to build, you do low reps, high weight, so that you break those cells, so those poor cells don't know what's happened, and then they will replace more.
Okay, thanks Kathy, that was amazing. You did that in 30 seconds. Thank you so much, grade 11s, grade 12s, don't forget it's genetics next. Grade 11s, you absolutely rock, and remember next week we'll be focusing on the human circulatory system. So get your questions in early so we can make sure they all get answered. Thank you for a fantastic session, guys. Answer all the questions on the page, help each other out, because mindset is rock. Thanks guys, and bye.